بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون، الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، صاحب العصر والزمان، خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. The days of Arbaeen are upon us, and we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for again giving us tawfiq to gather, to commemorate, to remember Imam Hussein's mission, his family, his companions, his loved ones, with the hopes that maybe through this commemoration now we enter the realm of knowledge, of hidayat, of guidance, of tazkiyah and purification. These are days where no doubt we send our salams to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. At the same time now, we do our best to emulate his path. The path of salvation travels through not admiration, but rather through emulation. It's important that we move away from admiring what Imam Hussein did and attempt to emulate what he did, to a certain degree, of course. And part of his process, part of what he was doing, why he left the comforts of his own hometown in Medina, was to educate the masses, to unveil the reality of oppression. Now, I'm with you for 3 nights, inshallah, and I wanted to initially talk a little bit about what topic I'll be referring to. As many of you may or may not know, I like to tackle one topic across the few nights that I'm with you. So we'll look at the topic of spiritual elitism in these next few nights. Spiritual elitism. And let's, as a muqaddamah, as a preliminary discussion, let's understand that when we talk about our enemies, we have to first identify our open enemies. إِنَّهُ لَكُمْ عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ, the Quran says, is shaitan. Okay? Shaitan is our open enemy. He has flat out said, I will ambush them from the front, from the back, from the right, from the left, to the point where you will not find وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. You'll find the majority of them to be those who are ungrateful. Now, he places traps inside of our path. He ambushes us. We have no idea it's coming sometimes. But we have to identify those traps. And sometimes that requires us to have uncomfortable conversations. And so these 3 nights that now you are stuck with me, you're going to go through some uncomfortable conversations. Because my job up here right now is not to lullaby us to sleep or to soothe us or to tell us that everything will be grand. It's to shake us, to wake me up, to avoid the idea of ghafla and heedlessness, to ensure that I don't fall into the traps of shaitan. And one of them is that trap of elitism, and specifically the school of thought of the Shias. We are quick sometimes to identify the problems, the holes, the deficiencies, the weaknesses within the foundation of other schools of thoughts. And those are debates that should happen. They have to happen, of course. We must identify the differences. But sometimes I think that we consume ourselves so much with everybody else, we lose sight of ourselves. It's like that individual that has everyone else's solution figured out. You should do this, you should do that, they should do this. But if I was to ask them, what should you do? They have no idea. So prescriptions they hand out like candy, right, to everybody else. Brother, try this. Sister, you should really try this. If you haven't done this, do this. But the prescription that you should be writing to yourself and to your own souls is not there. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu alaykum anfusikum, the Quran says, oh, you who believe, upon you is yourself. Look after yourself. You are for yourself. For a moment now, let's forget about fixing others and blaming others and labeling others and destroying others. Let's look at ourselves for a moment. And so, we take that concept from an individual basis to a school of thought and ideology. And we end up falling into the trap, it's a trap now, where we believe as Shias that we are elite, and there's no doubt the path of the Ahlul Bayt is absolutely elite. But as I said in the beginning, the path of the Ahlul Bayt's elitism will only enter our realm and our existence when we begin to emulate that elitism, not simply admire it. We could talk about the tales of the Zulfiqar all we want. We can talk about the courage and the loyalty of Abu al-Fazl al-Abbas. We can talk about, for example, the ilm and the munazara and the debate of Imam Rada alayhi salam. Talk about the hilm of Imam Qadim. Talk about, the fact that at the age of 9 or 8 or 5, the 9th to 10th Imam, they destroyed the theologians of their time. Those are all aspects that are important. Fada'il, admiration, is important to spark love, but love has to move forward towards emulation. Our salvation, our hope for the hereafter, our success in the hereafter is measured by emulation, not only by admiration. I'm sorry, the Imam's enemies admired them. Non-Muslims admired the Imams. The lowest level of their companions, the highest level of their ashab, all of them admired them. Admiration is not something that we should be proud of. Emulation is, however. And it is that lack of emulation from my part, someone like me, for example, where now I believe that I'm elite only because I've recognized that Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura was the third Imam, not the son of the fourth Khalifa, for example. And in the process now, what ends up happening is that because you think you're elite, because I think I'm elite, I look down on others, I judge others, I ridicule others, I dismiss others, I cancel others. All these things happen, and in the process, an ego takes over. And I begin now to believe that I have earned this level in the eyes of Allah without any merit whatsoever. And so naturally now spiritual complacency comes in. Naturally now we become completely static in our deen. Naturally now we become individuals who are stagnant in our deen. We don't move. We don't elevate. We become comfortable. And any thought of islah, reform, bettering yourself, the idea that the deen is mutaharrik, the deen is a moving deen, the deen is a dynamic deen, the deen is a revolving deen, all that is for others. I'm good where I am. I've recognized what my path is. And to the point now where I've convinced myself that my measly a'mal are not only enough, they're good enough to get into heaven. That's a problem. I'm sorry. It stems from a meritless concept. I haven't done anything in my life for me to stop and assume this position. Only because I wear black, I cry for Imam Hussein, I do the bare minimum. Let's be careful, please. Let's not allow others, either on the pulpit or around us, to sit there and paint this picture like all of this muhasabah and this judgment and this hereafter are for others. You simply arrive, do the bare minimum on the day of Ashura, Wear nice clothing on the 30th of Rajab, for example, right? Do the Amal, the nights of Qadr, a couple of bare minimum nights throughout the year, and your palace awaits you in heaven. So I want to expand on this a little bit in these next 3 nights that I'm with you. These are bitter pills to swallow. But my job up here, my responsibility up here, is not to give me things that I like to hear, but things that I need to hear. And sometimes it's not easy. And especially given the fact that we are living in an era where this idea of sitting in discomfort is frowned upon. If it stresses you out, then leave it. Right? We live in a society where, they don't promote the idea of pushing through uncomfortableness. Where if, for example, the job is stressing you out, then quit. Right? Our parents' generation, those of us who have immigrant parents, they came from a philosophy that if it's broken, fix it. We come from a philosophy that if it's broken, replace it. Okay? Meaning if it's broken, for example, if your VCR is broken, your DVD player is broken. I know these are brand new words for my millennials or my Gen Z guys, but if it's broken, then open it up now. Let's see what you can do. Tape if you. I remember growing up. I had this DVD player. We had to, you had to use a pen to turn the power on, and then you had to use another hand to. But it worked. Whereas my generation, maybe a little bit younger, the moment that, a button is missing and I have to use 3 pencils to get it to work, I'm sorry, man. Let's give it away, donate it, khalas, khulafis, and let's go ahead and buy a new one. The problem with that is that it trickles into everything else into my life, from my job to my school to my marriages, right? If this wife of mine, if this husband of mine is broken, for example, is not working the way I thought they would be working, is not the wife that I signed up for, is not the husband that I wanted, within 70 days, 90 days, 4 months, don't fix it. Don't work hard for it. Don't try to repair the marriage. Replace the marriage. If this course in university is so hard, it's stressing you out, don't power through that stress. Drop the course, man. Take another course. Take art or something, or take something else, If this job is stressing you out, quit. There's tons of jobs out there. You're a young guy, mashallah, you're a young girl, you can go out and you can find another job. The mentality is that do not force yourself to enter a realm or an area or a portion of your life that is uncomfortable. Whereas the Quran says, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرُهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. It could be, the Quran says, that you despise something. It makes you uncomfortable. You don't like to be around it. وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. It's actually very good for you. Or it could be that you love something, adore something, attracted to something. Makes you feel so good when you're around it. وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. It's actually detrimental for you. So the Quran's saying, look, it's not always how you feel about things. It's a reality of it. So this discussion is not easy. It's bound to make us feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's okay. Let's not shy from it. Let's not run from it. Let's embrace it, and let's ask ourselves, am I the way that he's describing one of us? Okay. Now, spiritual elitism is, goes against the very nature of the deen. The deen is meant to produce humble, sincere, pious, soft-mannered, non-judgmental, someone who does not judge, somebody, for example, does not look down on others, inclusive, understanding of everybody else. Remember, and this is an ongoing thing I'll repeat throughout the nights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the very God that we believe in, is a God that's merit-based. Is a God that is merit-based. Whatever we achieve, whoever has achieved, be it the prophets of Allah or the imams or the ulama, the awliya, the scholars, you and I, whatever the case may be, all of it has been based on something we've done. God does not work arbitrarily where, okay, let me give him a reward, let me give her the reward, let me make him the fifth imam, let me make him, let's say, an other prophet. Oh, out of a hat, let's say, for example, close your eyes and pick this imam. No, everything is merit-based. Allah works on merit-based. He's bound by his adala to be able now to give out of everything that you have or I have earned. Now, if he decides to give more, then so be it. That's his right as a creator. That's his right as a Rabb. As a loving, forgiving, merciful Lord, he can give out of his grace. But initially, to earn any giving is us. So if we wish to reach a certain maqam and level in the eyes of Allah in this world or the hereafter, it has to be merit-based. We have to earn it. So let's examine tonight as an introductory discussion, first of all, what the Ahlul Bayt has said about this. So I want to examine a beautiful hadith by Imam Ali, alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And also I want to look at one story from Nabi Musa's time, from Surah Ma'idah, and examine these three verses, inshallah. Let's recite one nice salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Imam Ali, alayhi salatu wasalam, in Nahj al-Balagha has a beautiful tradition. You know, sometimes the Ahlul Bayt, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they tell us through you know, the words or through wahi and revelation how to be like this. They give examples, for example, right? ضرب الله مثلا, for example, they give example of a group of people. They give example of individuals. امرأة فرعون, the wife of Fir'aun, for example, right? All these examples are people you should emulate, try to be. Then there are moments where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Ahlul Bayt both describe individuals or groups of people that you should not be. وَلَا تَكُونْ وَلَا تَكُونْ, don't be like those, don't be like those. Imam Ali, in this hadith that I want to examine now and dissect a little bit, he talks about 5 groups of people that we should avoid being. He says, وَلَا تَكُونْ مِمَّنْ يَرْجُ الْآخِرَةَ بِغَيْرِ الْعَمَلِ. He says, don't be like the one who has a high hope for heaven. يَرْجُ الْآخِرَةَ. This raja, this hope for what? For a good akhirat, for a palace in heaven with diamonds and rubies and gold, you name it. All this hope, all this anticipation, I can't wait. If I close my eyes, I can picture it, Maulana. I can picture my gardens and my rivers and the food and the drink and the fruits and the weather and the palaces. Oh, I can see it all, man. It's beautiful. And that hope is all there, but the hope is بِغَيْرِ الْعَمَلِ. That hope is without you doing anything. Don't be like the one who has high hopes for the hereafter, but those hopes are there based on nothing. You know, going to university here in Toronto, Canada, university, I wasn't, the one class that would be my, it would be my Everest. Like, it's just a mountain I had to climb now and face was statistics, stats class. Oh, I couldn't. It was my kryptonite. It brought me to my knees. I couldn't do it. Stats was a very difficult class. I want you to imagine now, I entered the stats class, first week of the semester, I sit all the way in the back of the class. Every assignment that's assigned, I do one, I don't do the other. Even the ones I do, I really don't put my heart into it. I barely pass the midterm. I squeak by the final. And then when it's time for them to calculate the final term, I'm begging Allah, please, Allah grant me an A+ in stats class. Which logic are you applying that you're going to think you're going to have an A+ into this class? You sat in the back, you slept half the class, you did every second assignment, you bombed the midterm, you barely passed the final. If you get a D in this class, ooh, you are a lucky man. A plus. Come on now, that's delusion. And sometimes we enter the realm of hope. I believe in a hopeful Allah, so do you. I'm leaning heavily on the mercy of Allah in the hereafter. But I'm not delusional. Don't be so, I should not be so hopeful that I'm delusional. Nor should I be so hopeless that I'm hopeless. That, oh, God will never forgive me. This fine line is very, very important, right? Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says when you are to weigh Rija and khawf, hope and fear inside the believer's heart, they should weigh the exact same. Right? It's not that we are abundantly hopeful to the point where we're delusion or so fearful that we become hopeless. No. Right? So here the first line, the first person Imam Ali is warning us against is don't be like those who hope the hereafter بغير عمل, without doing anything. Number 2. He says, وَلَا تَكُونْ مِمَّنْ, don't be like those يُخَافُ عَلَى غَيْرِهِ بِأَدْنَى مِنْ ضَنْبِهِ. Don't be like the one, he says, who is fearful for others, ala ghayrihi, is afraid of others, but he's not afraid of his own sins. يخاف على غيره. I'm worried about their akhirat. I'm worried about your akhirat. I know what's going to happen to you in the grave. What's happening? Meanwhile, you're not afraid at all about what's going to happen to you. No. Don't be like those. وَلَا تَكُونْ مِمَّا يُحِبُّ الصَّالِحِينَ وَلَا يَعْمَلُ عَمَلَهُ. Don't be عَمَلَهُم. Don't be like the one who loves the salihin. يُحِبُّ الصَّالِحِينَ. I love the good doers. Look how great this woman, brother, is. Look how amazing she is. She dresses well. She's hijabi. She's covered. She's a great mother. She's a alima, mashallah. Her qira'at is amazing. Her akhlaq is outstanding. I love to be around her. I love to be around this brother. His dua is beautiful. His aura, his energy is so positive. وَلَا يَعْمَلُ عَمَلُهُ. But you don't act like them. If you love this, if you have yuhibbu salihin, become like the salihin then. Don't be like the one who loves the salihin, but there's no remnants inside your amal of the one that you love. Remember, we have to travel not through admiration, but through emulation. Don't be like those, he says, وَيُبْغِضُ الْمُذْنِبِينَ وَهُوَ أَحَدُهُمْ. Ahaduhum, Allahu Akbar. Don't be like the one who despises the sinner. Despises the sinner. Yubghidu, has bughz, nafrat, hatred towards who? The muthnabeen, the one who sins. And yet Imam Ali says, وَهُوَ أَحَدُهُمْ, you are one of them. Look at him, he's always backbiting. Look at how she's dressed, for example. Look at what a horrible person he is. What a horrible husband he is. He's a zalim inside of the home, for example. All she cares about is talking about others, for example. Right? This person's always yelling. That auntie is always judging. This uncle is always angry. Oh, we have everybody else. Everybody can't stand them, can't stand them, can't stand them. And all of their qualities are found inside of you. So you hate them, you hate them, you hate them, and yet you're one of them. وَهُوَ أَحَدُهُمْ. You're one of them. Don't be like those. Stop and ask yourself, am I like this? Am I like that? And finally, he says, don't be like the one وَيَرُجُلْ لِنَفْسِهِ بِأَكْثَرَ مِنْ عَمَلِهِ. Don't be like those who have hopes, the hope they have لِنَفْسِهِ for themselves is higher than what they've done. Goes back to the first point, this delusion. Right? I do the bare minimum. My salat is 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, quickly, Allahu Akbar, subhanAllah. Get it done. And then, I know. If anyone's going to go into heaven, it's going to be me. Habibi, from where? From where do you think this? Let's be careful. Remember, if we want to achieve anything in the hereafter, even in this world, got to work for it. It's incredible how for every other science, every other study, every other portion of our life, all of it now, we know that without the effort, we'll get nowhere. You can't wake up one day, put on a white coat, and put a pen, put a name tag on, have a stethoscope around your neck, and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm a doctor." You can't wake up one day, put on a police form, a police uniform, walk the streets, and make sure that you are the one who is, ensuring that the law is being followed. You can't go and put on a judge's robe. Let's say you have your gavel in your hand, and you go and you walk into a court and you begin to rule on cases. You can't do that. And you can't be individuals who are the Ahl Jannah inside heaven without working towards it. I talk to myself up here. I have a long way to go. I know I do. But let's move away from this fantasy world that sometimes, I'm sorry, is presented to us that do the bare minimum. But because you are somebody who has identified the Ahlul Bayt, not even followed them, just identified them, their dhulm, their level, their happiness. You celebrate their birth. You cry for their shahada. Let's say, for example, right? You know their names. You know their birthplaces. You visit them. Let's say, for example, in Iraq or in Hijaz or in Iran, and all that we believe will be enough. And I don't know. Allah's mercy, Allah's grace is higher than even I could imagine. But what I do know is that He is merit-based. We have to walk the walk, talk the talk. Imam Hussein didn't arrive in Karbala and say, "Okay, I'm here, God. I fulfilled your promise. Now take me to heaven." No. He arrived in Karbala. He went thirsty. He went hungry. His body was trampled. His head was severed. He gave his Ali Asghar. He gave his Ali Akbar. He actually now what? He walked the walk. He did it. He paid the price on the day of Ashura. And he kept paying the price until God Himself says, "Ya ayyuha nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya." Bas, that's enough now. You paid your price, now come back. I'm radhi with you, you are radhi with me. If we wish to achieve anything in the eyes of Allah, we must do the actual act. Now, it's one thing where how much of an act, Sayyid, the qabuliyat of the act, the acceptance of the act, I mean, that's an ilm ghaib discussion, right? Will Allah accept my ziyat? Will Allah accept my salat? Will Allah? That is an ilm al-ghaib. That's unknown knowledge that I don't have, I'm sorry. And I won't pretend to say, "Oh yeah, there's no reason why you shouldn't believe." But what I do know is, from a hadith from Imam Sadiq, is that when Allah beloves somebody, when someone becomes Allah's mahbub and His beloved, He accepts very little from them. Meaning what? A very small amount of worship done with the love of Allah is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's not about major acts of worship done every so often. He wants the small things done consistently. Imam Ali's hadith. Small acts of worship done consistently is more beloved in the eyes of Allah than large acts done inconsistently. Going to Hajj once in a lifetime, I'm sorry, is easy. The everyday إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, the everyday watching of the tongue, the everyday controlling of your eyes, the everyday of ensuring that your akhlaq in the home is good. That's more difficult, let's say, than even 30 days of the year now fasting, giving khums once a year, going to Hajj once in a lifetime. It's the everyday minute acts that have to be done consistently, that are difficult, and that's what Allah loves. Now, amounts, quantity, how much, Sayyid, that I can't speak of. What I do know is that we have to earn our maqam and level in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It can't be that someone else does it and we reap the benefits. We're not like that. We don't believe in the idea That someone else now gave their life so my sins can be forgiven. So I did the crime, I did the sin, but someone else will be punished. I'll sneak out the back door into heaven. So I live my life as I wish in this world, following shaitan, nafse ammara, doing what I want, and now I'm being fanned and fed grapes inside of Jannah. Nah, Baba. It's not like that, I'm sorry. And sometimes we are given these fantasy stories. One-way boarding pass to heaven. Close your eyes in this world, you'll open up the next time you open your eyes, you'll be in heaven. Because we like to live in these fictitious worlds, right? I mean, right now we live in a world of dragons and zombies, right? And wizards and thrones and, I don't know, superpowers. And why is DC and Marvel now blowing up? Where are all these, Harry Potter and fictitious stories now being blown up? Because it takes us to a faraway land, a make-believe land, numbing us to reality, drowning ourselves, right? And people who can fly, for example, or people who can, who are a spider or a bat or an ant, right? Let's not fall into those traps of shaitan. Now, that was the hadith of the Ahlul Bayt. Let's come to the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Ma'idah is the 5th chapter of the Quran. Verses, I believe, 24, 25, 26. A portion of the story of the life of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Again, I ask all of you, very humbly, one thing I have discovered myself past couple of years is that I have taken a vested interest in two things in my own personal studies. Number one is history of the dynasties of the Bani Umayyah and the Bani Abbasids. Study their lives, study these rulers, these corrupt rulers, what they did, how they did it, right? And what were the Imams' responses to them? Because they weren't all the exact same. Imam Sajjad's response, right, to oppose Yazid reign is very interesting. Our 8th Imam's behavior with the Haruns and Ma'mun Rashids is very, very interesting. Imam Ali's dealing with Muawiyah, very interesting. And on top of that, also the lives of the prophets before the Prophet of Allah. Incredible stories. And again, stories that can really apply to us today. One of the most beautiful stories in the Quran, albeit in pieces, and the most mentioned in the Quran is that of Nabi Musa alayhi salam. His story is incredible, all the way from his birth, the drowning of Fir'aun, to the wandering in the desert, all of it now is incredible and lifelong lessons for us. I want to examine 3 verses, and I'll read them verbatim, just so I don't, do injustice to the Quran. But I want you to follow along with me. All of you right now are online. You have your devices, I'm sure, in your hand. Please follow along. 5 is the surah number, Surah Ma'idah. 24, 25, 26. Let me set the verses up for you. Inshallah, we'll go through them one by one. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. This is that era in the story of Nabi Musa now, where Fir'aun now has been drowned. The Bani Israel tribe has witnessed the drowning of Fir'aun. Fir'aun is no longer there. They're now outside of Egypt now, and they're in between lands. Okay? The study of the Bani Israel tribe is a very interesting one. These people were unique, I tell you. They were interesting people. Given blessing upon blessing. Freed from the clutches of Fir'aun and his people. And yet it took them a long time. In fact, it never happened, if you ask me, that they embraced Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would always refer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the Lord of Musa. And when they would speak to Nabi Musa, they would say, ask your Lord, ask your Lord, ask your Lord. He never became their Lord. After all the blessings and the mu'jizat and the miracles and everything, from the cow to the splitting of the sea to the, you name it. The droughts and the storms and the frogs and the locusts and the blood water, everything they saw with their own eyes. But as the Quran says, ثُمَّ قَسْوَتْ قَلُوبُكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ ذَلِكَ. Because, your hearts have hardened, you can't understand this. لَعَلَّكُمْ يَعْقِلُونَ is what Allah is trying to instigate their aql, trying to, revive their intellect, and they couldn't do it. Anyways, now they have left Egypt now. Fir'aun is no longer an issue anymore. And now he's telling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Nabi Musa, there's a land there waiting for them. Uncultivated land. They can set up shop there, known as the present day Palestine. Okay? But there's a group of people there that need to be removed. They're a fraction of your size. Go, remove them now, because they're there illegally. Remove them, the land is yours. You can set up your brand new life there. You can be the rulers. You can be the tribe leaders. You can now control the narrative of your life. You are no longer under the dhulm and the oppression of Fir'aun. Imagine now. Not only did God now free them from Fir'aun, but he also freed them from Egypt. Egypt could have a lot of trauma in there. There could be a lot of memories that these people want to forget. So God said, look, start fresh. Start fresh. There's a land there. I gave you my Ulul Azam prophet. I gave you freedom from Fir'aun and that oppression. Go ahead. Start fresh now. Bismillah. That land is all yours, waiting for you. You just have to do a little bit of zahma, a little bit of effort now to remove this illegal tribe, whatever they are, and the land is yours. That's a good deal. So Nabi Musa now tells them the plan. This is what's going to happen now. And this is where now verse 24 of Surah Ma'idah begins. قَالُوا يَا Musa, they say to Nabi Musa, إِنَّا لَن نَدْخُلَهَا أَبَدًا. We're not going to go there. We will not go there. أَبَدًا مَا دَامُوا فِيهَا. So long as they're there, we're not going to go there. We're not going to go. And then this part, I tell you, these verses are incredible, guys. Because we're not going to go there. فَضَحَبَ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ. Remember, your Lord. So you go. You and your Lord go. You guys go. فَقَاتِلَ and fight. Go ahead. But you and your Lord are enough for you guys to go. Fight. Go ahead. Fight. Let us know what happens. إِنَّ هَا هُنَا قَائِدٌ. We'll be sitting right here. Let us know what happens. Okay. When you and your Lord go and free up that land of yours, just give us a call, send a quick WhatsApp, maybe a message. Okay, the coast is clear, and we will come and we will help you set up shop in Palestine. Can you imagine? Imagine now Nabi Musa hearing these words. Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The level of kufran and ni'mat. The level of the sheer cancelling and ignoring of blessing upon blessing. The level of the belittling of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine now after everything they've gone through, everything they've seen, everything they've been given, they now have the gall to say, we're not going to go. Sorry. You would think at this moment they are ready to do whatever they want to do. We won't go. Right? لَن نَدْخُلَهَا. We'll never go. لَن نَفِي عَبَدًا. We'll never go. Never go. So long as they're there, we won't go. So you go. فَأَذْهِبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ. You go and fight for them. فَقَاتِلَ. Go ahead. And let us know what happens. This next two verses, 25 and 26, capture the annoyance, if I can use that word, and the frustration of not only Nabi Musa, but of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Now, Nabi Musa hears this, and now he turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ رَبِّي. He says, Nabi Musa says to his Lord, my Lord, إِنِّي لَا أَمْلِكُ إِلَّا نَفْسٍ وَأَخِي. I don't have control over any of these people. I have control over nafsi wa akhi, me and my brother. That's all I have control over. I can't force him to do anything. I don't have any control. I can suggest, I can deliver your wahi, deliver your message. I don't have any control. If that's the case, فَفْرُقْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَ الْقَوْمِ الْفَاسِقِينَ. So separate us and the nation of these fasiqeen, of these transgressors. Qala, verse number 26. Qala now is no longer Nabi Musa alayhi salam. Tafsir says this is now Allah now responding to Nabi Musa. Allah, of course, is witnessing all this. He sees the frustration in the voice and on the face of Nabi Musa. He then says, فَإِنَّهَا مُحَرَّمَةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ أَرْبَعِينَ سَنَةً. If this is their attitude, if this is what they want to do, they don't want to walk the walk and talk the talk, they don't want to pay the price, they don't want to fight for their own freedom after everything I've done, they simply want things handed to them without doing any sort of effort. If that's the case, I have now made it haram on them. This land now is haram for them. And for arba'ina sanatan, for 40 years, they'll do what? Yatihuna fil ard. They'll wander the land. They'll wander in the desert. They'll go from being given a land for them to set up shop in, to cultivate in, to live in, to now being homeless, displaced, not knowing where north is, not knowing where south is, not knowing which direction to go, for not just 1 or 2 days, arba'ina sanatan, for 40 years. For 40 years. And Allah, knowing full well how Nabi Musa is, He says, فَلَا تَعْسَ عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْفَاسِقِينَ. Don't feel bad for these people. Do not feel bad for these people. Don't have the softness for them. Even God has his limits. Fir'aun is drowning in the ocean saying, now I believe in the Rabb of Musa. I'm sorry. You had ample opportunity. These are people who were not given one chance. Ample. Read the history of how many chances they were given and how many one by one they had rejected. The moment Musa would leave them, they would go and worship an idol. No, God says don't. فَلَا تَعْسُوا. Don't feel bad. Don't have any sort of, this idea of, I feel bad for them. I have a little bit of compassion for them. It's okay. They've had a rough time with Fir'aun. God says no. If you want that land, you have to go and fight for it. If you want to reach that level of security and aman in that land, you have to go and do it. Allah says you have to earn it now. I'm not giving it to you. Yes, I'll help you. I have helped you. But you have to take the first step. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. Allah says, for the one now who is God conscious, I will open up an outlet for you, a solution for you, an exit for you. But the condition is, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ. Go ahead and be the one who takes the first step. So my brothers and my sisters, let's not fall into the trap of spiritual elitism, which is meritless. If we want to be elite in the eyes of Allah, Allah says, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. I've honored the human being. I have given you honor. Your job now is to do what? Is to maintain that honor. Don't allow this dunya to come and infiltrate inside of you. As Imam Ali says, so long as the boat is on the water, the boat will sail. The moment the water gets inside the boat will sink. So long as we are in the dunya, we are fine. The dunya enters inside of us and we will sink. A beautiful hadith by Imam Ali. Live in this world. Maintain your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Earn His mercy. It's not hard to earn His mercy. But don't think, and I talk to myself up here, I tell you, all of you are just simply eavesdropping while I talk to myself up here. Don't think for a moment that you do a couple of acts here and there, and all of a sudden that's it. Sometimes we think that 30% of my ibadat as a Shia is better than 100% of anyone else's. Even if you are to prove that's right, the sheer thought of it is detrimental towards your soul. Where is the humbleness in that statement? Where is the humility in that statement? All I smell is ego. Ana khayru minhu. Open statement of shaitan. I'm better than he is. It's that very ego and takabbur that destroyed shaitan. God forbid we have a hint of that inside of us. If God has given you the blessing to inherit the path of the Ahlul Bayt, don't use it to look down on others, number one, and don't use it now to think, oh, I'm set now. No, Baba, you inherited a religion. It's now time for you to convert that inheritance to reality. Nobody will ask you in your grave what your last name is. Nobody will ask me, oh, you're a Sayyid, mashallah, please come in. We've been waiting for you. There's a room here waiting for you. There's tea, karak chai, nice biscuits, AC room. But I didn't do, oh, it doesn't matter what you did in the world. You're a Sayyid, mashallah, come. No, I'm sorry. That Sadat, that Sayyid, and I'm a Sayyid, that Sayyid will only have any play in the hereafter when I resemble the lineage I'm a part of. When I emulate to the best of my ability. For example, in my case, I'm a Jafri, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Not that you're a Jafri, but you're so different from your Jad Imam Sadiq. This is not a passport application form. This is amal. This is amal. And when death now meets us and take us back to the alim and the shahid, فَيُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. This alim, this shahid, Surah Jum'ah says, will give us khabar, will tell us, inform us, not of what you know, not of your last name, not of your tribe or your qabila, not of your khandan or family, what you did in this world. We'll look at, inshallah, in the coming nights, how do I avoid this? How do I fight this, inshallah? The barriers, the solutions, all that is coming up. But initially, let's understand, let's not fall into these traps. Imam Hussein made the niyat in Medina and Mecca to leave. He tried very hard. Ibn Zubair, Ibn Umar, both Abdullahs now tried their level best to stop Imam Hussein. He says, I don't have a choice. I can't allow that man to sit on the takht and the kursi of my grandfather, claimed to be the Khalifa of Islam, and I sit here quiet in Medina. Absolutely not. He left, took his women, his children, his ashab, his men, and he arrived in Karbala, and he did what he said he would do. And his sister Bibi Zainab took that message from the northern deserts of Iraq through the bazaars of Kufa and the bazaars of Sham. The month of Safar has been a very difficult month for the Ahlul Bayt. This is that month now where the Ahl Haram has entered Sham. This is that month now where the Muqaddas head of Imam Hussein now is in the presence of Yazid. That same Yazid that would strike the teeth of Imam Hussein with an iron rod, disrespecting the head in front of Bibi Zainab. These are those days when somebody would ask Imam Sadat what was the most difficult moment of all this journey. He would say, Sham, Sham, Sham. There's one incident I want to report for Masayib, inshallah, tomorrow, the next day are the Arbaeen Masayib. Just one small incident from the Bazaar of Sham. There are many moments that are heartbreaking. One small incident, the Masa Dua. The women of Rasulullah now are being paraded, and I'm sorry for that word, are being taken through the Bazaar of Sham. People are there, of course, watching this tamasha and this show unfold. Some are throwing rocks. Some are hurling insults. Bibi Sakina is right beside Bibi Zainab. And she says to Bibi Zainab that I'm thirsty. Is there any way you can get me a little bit of water? There are some of you who have small daughters inside your home, small kids inside your home. They might ask you for this or for that. You can say no, but for some reason, I don't know how it is with you, but for some reason for me, when my daughter asks me, I have a 7-year-old daughter, when she asks me, Baba, I'm thirsty, can you get me water? I drop everything and I go and I get her a glass of water. The thought of her being thirsty now and not having water kills me. Here Sakina's looking up to Bibi Zainab, says, I'm thirsty, can I get a drop of water? And there's no water to be found anywhere. In that state, there's a woman now watching this from the bazaar, from the second floor. She hears this request of Bibi Sakina. She goes inside, grabs her younger daughter, grabs a glass of water, comes downstairs, and now in the bazaar approaches Bibi Zainab, offers her a glass of water. This is for the girl beside you who asked for water. Zainab couldn't believe this moment of compassion in this land of enemies. Zainab says to her that you've been very kind to us. You've given her some water. Can you please, is there anything we could do in return? Any dua you have, any hajat you have, all we can do is we can pray for you. This woman now had something in her mind for a dua, something to ask for, but she looked at the state of Bibi Sakina, a 4-year-old, blood running from her ears, kurta, a burnt kurta on her back, bruises on her face, and all she could do was turn to Bibi Sakina and say, please ask this 4-year-old to simply pray that my daughter does not become yatim like she's become yatim. Zainab says, Sakina, please pray for the safety of this young child. I don't know how she did it, but Bibi Sakina, with her small masoom hands, raises it up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh Allah, for the sake of my yatimiyat, for the sake of my own state of being an orphan, I ask you, Allah, please don't make her a yatim like you have made me a yatim. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept this qaleel ibadat, inshaAllah. We ask you, Allah, to give us that tawfiq, inshaAllah, to earn our merit and our maqam in the hereafter. We ask you, Allah, to forgive our sins and those of our parents. And we ask you, Allah, one dua we have during these nights of Arba'een, to make us worthy of the Imam Zuhur, inshaAllah, such that we stand beside him when he comes. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.